They say you can get lost in Chungking Mansions for days. As a delivery driver for a local restaurant, I thought I knew every corridor of that chaotic labyrinth. But last month, I discovered a level that doesn't appear on any map, a floor between the 17th and 18th, accessible only by an elevator that appears at random. The first time I saw it, I was delivering curry to a guest on the 18th floor. The elevator stopped at 17. The doors opened to a normal hallway, but when they closed, the button for 18 was still lit, and between 17 and 18, a new button glowed with a strange symbol. I pressed it out of curiosity. The elevator stopped at 17. The doors opened to a normal hallway, but when they closed, the button for 18 was still lit. And between 17 and 18, a new button glowed with a strange symbol. I pressed it out of curiosity. The elevator descended instead of ascending, and the digital display showed B1 in flickering red letters. The descent was wrong, too smooth, too silent. No mechanical sounds, just a faint humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I watched the floor numbers on my phone's altimeter plunge far below any documented levels. B5, B7, B9. When the doors finally opened, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. The elevator descended for too long, the machinery groaning in protest. When the doors finally opened, I faced a corridor stuck in the 1970s. Orange floral wallpaper peeling at the edges. Shag carpet stained with unknown substances. And a single flickering fluorescent light. The air smelled of stale cigarettes and something sweetly rotten. Room doors stood slightly ajar, revealing glimpses of outdated furniture and shadows moving just out of sight. My delivery app showed no signal, and the elevator doors began closing behind me. I barely caught them with my delivery bag, my heart pounding. This was wrong. This floor shouldn't exist in Chungking Mansions or anywhere else in Hong Kong. I delivered the cold curry to an annoyed tourist, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the container. Back in the delivery bike parking, I tried to convince myself it was fatigue. But that night, my dreams were filled with the little girls crying and the shadowy figures' presence. I woke to find my apartment filled with the smell of old cigarettes, and my window, which I'd locked, stood open. Over the next week, I started noticing changes. My reflection sometimes showed the shadow figure behind me. Strangers in Chungking Mansions would suddenly have 1970s clothing before shifting back. The elevator began appearing on my delivery app as a glitch, always between floors, always accessible. I researched Chungking Mansion's history and found references to a major fire in 1978 that killed 17 people, including a mother and daughter named Lee. The daughter, Mei Ling, wore the same uniform I'd seen. The official report mentioned faulty wiring, but survivors told stories of a shadow man seen before the blaze. Meanwhile, the supernatural occurrences intensified. My delivery orders started including names of deceased residents. One note simply said, "Help us find the way out," in child's handwriting. The elevator began appearing in other buildings I delivered to, always with that mysterious button. The shadow figure grew more substantial, sometimes whispering just at the edge of hearing. I showed the key to Mr. Patel, who runs a currency exchange in Chungking and has been here since the 70s. His face paled. "That's from the fire," he whispered. "The bellhop who caused it always carried those keys." He told me the bellhop, a man named Joe, had been stealing from guests and set the fire to cover his crimes, not realizing people were inside. Joe died in that same fire, trapped in an elevator. But his spirit keeps running the hotel, Patel said, collecting new guests forever. As he spoke, the lights flickered, and I saw Joe's burned face reflected in the glass partition. He was standing right behind me. Yesterday, the elevator tracked me between floors for 3 hours. The lights flickered, showing brief glimpses of the 1970s corridor and the little girl trying to communicate. She drew a symbol in the dust on the floor, the same one from the mysterious button. The shadow figure became clearer each time. A tall man in a bellhop uniform from another era, his face burned and distorted. He whispered about unfinished business and collecting what's owed. When maintenance finally freed me, they found no mechanical issues, but in my delivery bag was a room key from 1977 for a room that doesn't exist on any floor plan of Chungking Mansions. The elevator descended into darkness, the floor numbers counting down to B7 before stopping. The doors opened to complete blackness, except for a single lit room at the end of a corridor. Mei Ling stood in the doorway, her form flickering. "He's coming," she whispered. "You have to break the cycle." The shadow bellhop materialized behind me, his burned hands reaching for my throat. I threw the prayer beads, and he screamed, a sound of tearing metal and human agony. The beads glowed with golden light, pushing him back. Mei Ling grabbed my hand. "The keys, he hides them in his office." She pulled me into the room as Joe advanced. The room was a perfect recreation of a 1970s hotel office. Rotary phone, ledger books, and walls covered in keys. Mei Ling pointed to a large brass key labeled Maintenance. "That controls the elevator," she said. "But you need to find my mother's locket too." As I searched, Zhao's shadow filled the doorway, his burned face contorted with rage. "This is my hotel," he roared. The room temperature plummeted. Frost spread across the walls as Zhao advanced, the prayer beads' glow fading. I desperately searched through the keys, my fingers numb with cold. Then I saw it, a small silver locket hidden behind the ledger, its surface cool to the touch. As I touched the locket, the room shimmered. I saw the fire, people screaming, Joe laughing as he locked doors from the outside, Mei Ling's mother desperately trying to reach her daughter's room. Then the vision shifted to present day. Dozens of lost souls wandering Chungking's hidden floors, trapped by Joe's eternal hospitality. The locket grew warm in my hand. Joe lunged, but Mei Ling stepped between us. "Enough, uncle," she said softly. "Mother forgives you." The locket glowed, and for a moment, Joe's face cleared of burns and anger. He looked like the young man he'd been before greed consumed him. Joe collapsed, sobbing. "I never meant," he began, but his form started dissolving into light. The maintenance key in my hand grew hot. Mei Ling smiled. "Now you can free everyone." She too began to fade, but peacefully. "Tell Mother I'm waiting." Then she was gone. I stood alone in the office as the frost receded. The brass key pulsed with energy. I heard elevator machinery engage throughout the building. Dozens of lifts moving simultaneously. Doors opened and closed in the distance, and I felt, rather than heard, sighs of release as souls finally moved on. But one elevator remained, mine, waiting to take me back. The elevator returned me to my apartment building, but something had changed. The prayer beads had turned to dust, and the locket now hung around my neck, cold against my skin. When I checked my phone, I had dozens of missed calls from Mr. Patel. "The building, it's different," he stammered when I called back. "The shadows are gone." The next day, delivering in Chungking Mansions felt lighter. People smiled more. Some residents mentioned strange dreams about loved ones visiting to say goodbye. Last night, I dreamed of Mei Ling and her mother, reunited in a sunlit field. They waved to me before fading into light. But Joe was there too, still in his bellhop uniform, but clean and whole. He bowed deeply. "Thank you for my freedom," he said, "but the hotel needs a new caretaker." I woke to find hotel keys on my bedside table, modern ones from Chungking Mansions. When I delivered there today, the manager stopped me. "We're making you master key holder for night deliveries," he said. "Something about you just seems right for the job." He doesn't know that the keys glow when I touch them, or that the elevators now whisper my name. The keys felt alive in my hands, vibrating with residual energy. That night, my first as official night key holder, I heard the elevators moving on their own. When I investigated, I found them going to floors that shouldn't exist. 13 and a half, 17A, the lost and found level. The security cameras showed only static during these moments. At 3 a.m., the main elevator opened on its own, revealing Mei Ling's mother standing inside. She bowed and handed me a ledger book from 1978. "The accounts must be settled," she whispered before fading. The ledger contained names of every person who died in the fire, with checkout dates set for last week. They had finally left. I discovered I could now see the building's true nature. Layers of time overlapping. Modern shops existed alongside 1970s boutiques. Ghosts of past residents going about their eternal routines. The strange button in the elevator. now glowed constantly for me. When pressed, it took me to the lobby between worlds, a place where spirits waited to move on. Joe appeared there often, now dressed as a peaceful guide rather than a tormented bellhop. The hotel chose you because you see with compassion, he explained. Most only see concrete and neon, but you see the souls trapped between. New spirits began arriving, not from the fire, but recent deaths across Hong Kong, drawn to my presence. A businessman who died of overwork, a tourist killed in an accident, even a cat that had been beloved by the neighborhood. They all needed guidance to move on. The hotel expanded spiritually, creating new rooms for each soul. I learned to use the master keys, not just for physical doors, but for metaphysical ones, opening pathways to whatever afterlife each spirit believed in. The locket around my neck glowed during these rituals, connecting me to a network of other spiritual caretakers across the city. Mr. Patel found me sleeping in the lobby one morning. "You look like you've seen ghosts," he joked, not knowing how right he was. He then told me about the night manager legend, a figure who appears every generation to tend to Chungking's spiritual needs. The last one disappeared in the 1990s. "They say he moved into the walls," Patel said. "That's when I noticed the small door behind his counter I'd never seen before, about my height with a lock that matched my master key. Inside, I found a small apartment, frozen in the 90s, with photographs of all previous night managers going back to 1900. The apartment contained journals of past night managers. Each described similar experiences, guiding souls, maintaining balance between worlds, and eventually transitioning fully into the spiritual realm. The most recent journal ended mid-sentence in 1998. "The veil is thinning, and I must choose whether to cross over completely or..." The sentence stopped there. In the bedroom, I found his uniform, same as mine, but spectral, glowing with soft light. When I touched it, visions flooded me. Hundreds of souls I'd helped. Their gratitude creating a web of light, connecting me to the building itself. Joe appeared in the apartment, now looking completely human. "The position is permanent," he said gently. "Once accepted, you serve until you train a replacement or transition." He explained that the building's chaotic energy required a spiritual anchor to prevent it from consuming itself. My delivery job had been a test. Navigating Chungking's labyrinthine corridors prepared me for navigating the afterlife. "But the choice remains yours," Joe said. "You can leave now and the memories will fade, or accept and become part of something eternal." As he spoke, the locket burned against my chest, not with pain, but with purpose. I walked through Chungking Mansions at dawn, seeing both realities simultaneously. Tourists buying SIM cards overlapped with ghosts from decades past. A mother crying for her lost child in 1978 stood beside a modern student Skyping home. I realized I'd been lonely my whole life, and here I'd found not just purpose, but family across time. Returning to the hidden apartment, I put on the spectral uniform. It fit perfectly, and knowledge flooded into me. How to calm angry spirits, how to read the building's moods, how to sense when someone was near death and needed guidance. My first test came immediately. A young backpacker overdosing in a hostel room. His spirit had already left his body, confused and scared. I used my new abilities to guide him back, showing him the beauty still waiting in his life. When he revived, he had no memory of me, only a feeling of being profoundly loved. The building approved. Lights throughout Chungking flickered in patterns I now understood as applause. That's when the previous night manager appeared, not as a ghost, but as a living man who had fully transitioned. "Welcome to the family," he said, handing me a key that could open any door in Hong Kong, physical or spiritual. The universal key changed everything. I could now access spiritual layers across Hong Kong. The ghost metro stations, the phantom ferries, the haunted markets. I met other caretakers, each tending to their own domain. We shared knowledge in dreams, our meetings appearing to outsiders as sudden fog or electrical storms. My delivery job became a cover for my true work. I now delivered messages between worlds, comfort to the dying, and warnings to those interfering with spiritual balance. The restaurant owner, unaware of my double duty, complimented my newfound efficiency as I completed deliveries impossibly fast. The victory celebration among the spiritual community was cut short by a new threat. Something ancient had awakened in the foundations. Pre-colonial spirits, angry and disoriented by modern Hong Kong, began emerging. They didn't understand elevators or electricity, seeing them as dark magic. The building shook with their rage. I had to bridge a gap of centuries, communicating through images and emotions, since we shared no common language. They showed me visions of the fishing village that once stood here, the graves we'd built over, the traditions we'd forgotten. Understanding was the first step toward peace. My life became a balancing act between timelines. I'd attend university in one reality, while running a tea shop in another. Date someone in this Hong Kong, while married to them in that one. The keeper taught me to maintain temporal integrity, keeping my various selves coordinated. My art exhibitions now happened across multiple realities simultaneously, though only other glasswalkers could appreciate the full scope. We discovered that our actions were creating new timelines. Every decision spawned alternatives, and we had to tend them like a garden. Some timelines became dark and needed pruning. Others flourished and created beauty we'd never imagined. A crisis emerged. A property developer planned to renovate Chungking Mansions, unaware he would disrupt spiritual foundations and unleash trapped negative energy. The building showed me visions of what would happen: shadows escaping into Hong Kong, possessions, mass hysteria. I had to stop him without revealing the truth. Using my position, I arranged a tour showing him only the most problematic physical issues. plumbing nightmares, structural weaknesses. I subtly guided his attention away from spiritually sensitive areas. The building cooperated, creating actual problems where needed. He left, convinced Chungking was more trouble than worth. I organized a meeting between all eras of Chungking's spirits, from the fishing village elders to the 1978 fire victims to recent arrivals. Using my abilities, I created a shared dream space where all could understand each other. The ancient spirits learned about modern Hong Kong, while recent ghosts learned the land's history. They reached an agreement. The ancient ones would protect the foundation. The middle spirits would maintain balance, and new arrivals would handle modern interfaces. Chungking Mansions became a model of spiritual cooperation. Its energy, now harmonized and stronger than ever. I visited my grandmother, who somehow still recognized me. "You've become what you always were," she said, her spiritual sight unaffected. She gave me her blessing and a family photo album. "Take our memories with you." I walked through Hong Kong one last time as a physical being, seeing the city's incredible spiritual tapestry, layers upon layers of joy, sorrow, history, and hope. At dawn, I returned to Chungking Mansions. The main elevator waited, doors open, showing not a compartment, but a gateway of pure light. I stepped through and became the building's eternal guardian. Now I am Chungking Mansions. I guide lost tourists to their hostels, comfort homesick immigrants, and tend to the spirits who call this place home. Sometimes at night, residents hear whispering in the elevators. That's me checking on them, waiting to see if they're worthy of becoming the next night manager. Because everyone needs a guide between worlds. So if you're ever in Chungking Mansions and feel a sudden sense of peace, or find your way when you were lost, or hear elevator bells with no elevators nearby, that's me, the night manager, still doing my deliveries, just of a different kind. And if you see a new delivery worker who seems to know the building a little too well, who always arrives exactly when needed, who has keys that glow, well, say hello. I might be training my replacement, because even eternal guardians need a night off sometimes. But until then, I'll be here, in the walls, between the floors, forever watching over this crazy, beautiful, haunted mansion we call home.